has to do a little research. Each of these STAR programs will have a committee. There's 10 different committees. The healthcare containment system will have a third item. Now, directly look at that. We have a problem with the homeless. I would say there are 1.5 million, 2, 3 million homeless out in the streets. God bless them. Some of them got great minds. They've just been misguided, alcohol, drugs, whatever it takes, they're out in the street. There's a lot of vets. So in the health containment system, we're going to have a place for these people. Vets be chosen first, women with children first, in line to come in. And they'll be put to work, there'll be housing, there'll be alcoholic rehab centers, drug rehab in these health containment systems. We'll get the homeless off the streets, a nice place, a warm bed, and food. All right? So that's part of the health containment system. There'll be 6 of them. And where is the funds going to come from? The $1 trillion off the Social Security bailout, the interest. So there'll be no tax increase. So everything works in conjunction with the other. It's a blueprint for success. All right, develop Mideast Alliance. The Mideast is a difficult place. It's been bad for thousands of years. They live in a self-rule, very self-rule with tribal influence. And we're introducing another form of government, our government, which is not self-rule, true democracy. They can't stand it. They're trying to do it, they're rebelling. So all the nations surrounding Iraq are sending people in to undermine the form of democracy. Let's face it, we won the war, it's a civil unrest. We've got to pull out. But if we pull out, what are we going to have for the soldiers that come back to the U.S.? 150,000 to 200,000. We have to have employment. So Hillary and Obama, they have no blueprint for success. They don't have an idea. What concept, what do they do? So I'm creating a massive work program. Massive, 150, that's why I took this 8,000-mile car trip. What has to be done in America? Road work. Bridges have to be repaired. Extension, more freeways. All right. Desalination plants, nuclear plants. I can put 150,000 people to work for 10 years. $500 million, which we spent in Iraq, billion, would come back into the infrastructure to fund these programs. $500 billion, which we spend there. It's a waste of money. But we're caught in this mess. We can get out of the mess gradually. But ahead of time, we have to research and find out where are these people going to work. I have a good idea, because I've seen the infrastructure, the evils, what has to be made good and repaired with these pullouts from overseas. Our unemployment rate is roughly about 4%, 5%. But if you had the pullout of these 150, it would go way up there, look bad. So we have to provide work for soldiers. So develop Mideast Alliance. Let's create a united faith council. How to deal with the Arabs. Very difficult. I feel I'm strong enough face to face, I don't care who it is, that I can lay down the law. We are the greatest nation that ever existed. We should not show any weakness. We support the Mideast. Create a united faith council, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, and Hindu. Besides politically, we are now going to introduce religiously 2 different facets to deal with the Saudi. The go-to guy are the Saudi Arabians. They got the money, they like our way of life, but there's a lot of problems with the Saudis. As you've probably seen, 15 of the terrorists were from Saudi Arabia. So how are we going to deal with them? We're dealing with them strong. They're going to set up their own Arab army, their alliance, the Mideast, to fight their own blood. And we would provide consultation. We are not going to spill our blood for their mess. So the feds are active in development talks. In effect, an Arab military, a court of law with containment on their land. That would take place. If anybody gives their life, blows up, or do this or that, they're put in their own court of law, their own justice. Now the massive work program, STAR 4, I already explained, 150,000 people. Desalination plants would be my main goal, because water is the heartbeat of America. We need water. We depend on rain, things dry out, it's bad. As we've seen, there's been a lot of problems with not enough water in the southern region throughout the U.S. this past year. Now with this upcoming earth crisis, I think that we should have something, alternative energy, such as desalination. I'm not talking about one or two, I'm talking about hundreds of plants up the coastline of California, Florida, and also I have mentioned pumping salt water in from Mexico. That's an alternative. Right? And we already looked at it. It's like 140 miles of pipeline to Yuma, and in Yuma there is state land, more than 20 square miles that can be provided. The main thing is funding. Now, 5, educational rework. This be argumentative. Some people will not like it. I see in America we're so capitalistic, we're so material. Let's face it, we're spoiled, which is great because we got a nice way of life compared to other nations. So I figure that by providing a reward system to the family, the son or daughter, if they excel through their studies, this will, what constitutes a reward? A vacation, cash, trophy? I don't know, we'll have to determine that. But it'll be a good reward. So it gives the family and the child incentive to go through 12 years that he or she will be rewarded for good studies. So it creates, my problem was when I was in school, and it's still the same problem through interviews, is that children are not given an opportunity or guidelines on professions. So I have 1 through 8 are guidance or occupational guide courses that would see where they're good at. I'm excellent in creating things. I'm bad in artistic, on art. So my personality is good in certain areas, or my character. So children can be defined where they're going to go and determine their future occupation through schooling. Create better pay incentives for teachers. Teachers are underpaid, and it should be top priority that teachers get more money, for sure. New courses that teach positive and motivational methods. I taught SMI, motivational. It's a very strong program. You get on your feet, you're positive, you're certain. Sometimes it's too strong, but it works with kids. So the new courses that teach children to be positive, motivated. Strengthen English only program. This 8,000-mile trip took me to Little Havana in Florida. I stayed for 1 day, and I just about hit the ceiling in disgust because nobody spoke English in Little Havana. It was all Cuban. And I was totally out in the cold. I couldn't go to restaurants. Nobody spoke English. And I was disgusted. But I understand through families and friends and interviews, this takes place all throughout the U.S., not only in the Cuban community. So a strong push, very strong push for most of the elderly or immigrants who come over, and also an immigration policy for they must speak English. Must. It's a necessity. So inner city rehab. This one I like very much because I came from an inner city, and basketball and various functions, neighborhood centers are very strong. So look into this where we can strengthen the inner city things for children, recreation, get them off the streets, get them into something more positive. Better incentives for landlords of rundown buildings. Because if you go to New York, there's buildings that are like you couldn't live in them, but they should be rehabbed, torn down, and fixed up. Develop tax incentives for landlords. Expand recreation areas, which I talked about. Now, a big area starts